So we're going to look at pro example first. So the thing that we're going to kind of focus on and that I want to draw your attention to is his posture here. First of all, where's most of his weight, and how can you tell right now?
Front foot, because his back foot's not completely flat.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. In fact, like he may not have any weight at all on his. Yeah, as you can see, there's like a little bit of like a lift, and like he's pivoting that back foot to enable him to continue to rotate forwards. So there's really no weight at all in this moment, like frozen in time, on his back foot. Everything is leaning on his front foot, and that's what enables his hips and his shoulders to continue to turn, is because he's not sitting back on that back foot at all. If we look back at the beginning of his swing, where's his weight now, and how can you tell?
Yeah, back foot, because his front foot's up.
Yeah, right. So he started with his, even though like in terms of posture, like he's straight up and down, he's actually completely lifted that front foot off, again, to kind of help like pivot it and get it pointed towards the ball by the time the ball gets there. And so when he puts that foot down, he's kind of made his decision about where his position is going to be. And now everything starts to actually transition forwards in terms of his body weight. So once he starts to unwind his body, all his momentum goes to his front foot, and then his back foot leaves the court. And that's what allows him to continue turning and rotating and actually finishing the full swing. So like in full speed, it's super easy to miss like all that, because it obviously happens so fast. But he goes from no weight at all on his front foot to no weight at all on his back foot. And while he does that, I mean, this is what makes like the top players so special. He's not going to stay perfectly on this line, but while he does that, no weight on his front foot, no weight on his back foot, and watch his spine as he does all that. He actually leans forward slightly as he goes into contact, and then he returns back to a neutral spine angle. So he goes from neutral to slight forward lean, back to neutral again. And so that like poise and like control is like, it's at this level of play, it's like huge. If there's any kind of like defensive posture, like wavering, or like the weight is on like the wrong foot, and you're receiving an 85-mile-an-hour ball and like trying to like change directions and go down the line, like just forget it. Like it's nearly impossible. All right, so looking at the same angle here, you take the racket back with your chest as well, which is fantastic. You get to a strong position when you get set. This is a little bit different than Novak in that like you were having to move along the baseline. So we're more or less going to be judging things like from this position here once you kind of get into your like preparation position and you're in a good spot. So at this point, where's all your weight?
Back foot.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, how do you feel about your posture right now? Would you say it's neutral, slightly forwards, or slightly backwards?
Feels slightly backwards.
It does to me too. Like it's kind of weird. Like you might technically be straight, but right. I almost feel like there's a little bit of backwards like lean, but it's not crazy. Like it's not like you're leaning super back, but it feels like you're a little afraid of the ball at this point. Okay. But it's not. It's slight. Like it's a pretty minor. I was curious what you thought about it. Okay, so now we're starting to transition forwards just like Novak did. That front foot plants, and you're more or less in the position you want to be in relative to the ball. And you're starting to transfer your weight forwards. And as you do that, I want you to watch your spine. Are you neutral now, or forwards, or back?
I'm back.
Mm-hmm. And now it's starting to get pretty significant. Yeah. So if we do a 90-degree angle, you're maybe, 5 or 10 degrees or something pitched backwards. Now, you have transferred your weight forwards, which is interesting. We went from your front foot being off the court, just like Novak, to planting, and now your back foot is off the court, just like Novak. Right. But even though your momentum as a whole is going this way, your body is actually going that way, which is kind of impressive, actually. that your momentum is going one way while your spine goes another way. Yeah. But this is what I was talking about in terms of like I feel like the mental, like psychological kind of crossing over with the physical. Mm-hmm. Like athletically, there's no reason for that to happen, and you're a good enough athlete that apart from just not feeling confident, I don't see any reason why, especially with all your momentum going forwards, that your posture would actually be backwards.
Right.
But it's a very repetitive thing.
Okay.
And as you kind of get set and finish your follow through, you actually use that plant on your front foot to further push back. And so you're like actively pushing yourself. Even though you went this way into contact, once you hit the ball, you're actually actively pushing yourself away from contact.
Okay.
Let's just kind of watch this in slow motion. And I want you to watch that relationship between hitting and like pushing away from the ball.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because your momentum is actually going forwards, but as you hit, you push yourself away.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good fundamental, habits there, but there's just this little bit of like, And this is why we started with the mental, because I personally, I feel pretty strongly that it's very intertwined. And if I just told you, oh, you just gotta like keep your, your spine like straight and maintain your posture during your backhand, you'd be like, oh, cool, that makes sense. And then I toss you a bunch and you do it and we high five, be like, oh, sweet, it's fixed. But then as soon as you go back into match play, I bet you'd probably, start doing that again.
Yeah.
So in other words, Charlie, I don't see any technical reason why you shouldn't be able to hang with another 4 or 5 player with your backhand.
Okay.
I think the posture is a manifestation of like your mental state.
Yeah.
And once we start addressing that and we consciously reverse the negative bias, I don't think there's any other technical flaw or reason why you can't just rally with
rally backhand.
Yeah.
Backhand rally with
without having to bail out on the slice. All right, so let's start off in the middle of the service line. And we're just gonna slowly shadow the example that we saw from Novak. So show me your best mimic right in the middle of the service line. Right in the center. And so really slowly and like mindfully, just move through a slow shadow where you try to mimic that same body weight and posture. Good. Let's do a couple more like that. So your thoughts here should be active transfer onto the front foot with a neutral spine. And then as you start to swing, we want to have a little bit of a positive spine into the ball and then return back to neutral again to maintain your balance. Nice job. Let's do a few more of those. Here's the setup. And so we're transferring forwards with a neutral spine. Remember before, like I asked you, you feel like you're neutral or negative or positive, and you're like, a little bit neutral. Right. This looks more like you actually want to hit the ball. Which is really like how subtle it was, because you had your front foot off the ground before, you were transferring forwards, but there was just a little something about like how you were addressing it that there was a little bit of lack of confidence. Now, as you step, we actually have positive spine angle, like you're transferring into the shot, just like Novak. Okay. And then you're returning back to neutral again afterwards. Okay. Great. So everything looks, confident and solid now, whereas before everything was kind of pushing, like the ball was like one of the Pac-Man ghosts or something, and you're like trying to avoid it. Go ahead and make a few more shadows, and I want you to cut the speed like in half, like your intensity. Just so that physically you can be really mindful about how you're moving. Like I don't want you to just go through the motions. I want you to really feel what's happening and not rush through it. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's a good speed. So let's do 2 more like that at that speed, and I'm gonna toss you 4 balls, and I just want you to do it the exact same way. You can aim wherever you want, doesn't matter, but just focus on that same posture. Okay, how do you think you did?
I remember thinking it felt different, and I remember thinking, oh, these aren't bad shots because my topspin keeps it in. That feeling of being like forward, like I felt like, oh my god, I'm just gonna power this thing like into the back wall, but then.
So your instinct is to be more careful.
Yeah, like it felt like that's what was gonna happen, and then just like the ball just like dropped.
And you were surprised that it worked?
Yeah, I was like,
So let's check it. So we've got maybe a little bit of positive lean here, but it's definitely neutral for sure. Like we're not leaning backwards.
Yeah.
So on the hit, you would have forward posture.
Right.
And on the finish, we have neutral posture.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so let's see if anything changed when the ball was there.
Okay, yeah.
Neutral. Notice how you're not quite as confident anymore?
Yeah.
But, ooh, man, it's close. So this is why like it's definitely like a mental thing.
Yeah.
I'll give you neutral on this, but you see how it's not quite as confident?
It's not the same, yeah.
It's not quite the same. Now hopefully we get the lean on the hit. Ooh. Oh man, we got a little bit.
Okay.
Now this is on an underhand, 5 mile an hour, like
Right.
so like we got training, to do here. Like this is gonna take some effort.
Okay.
Because it's just an old ingrained habit, Obviously you can do it, like you demonstrate on every single shadow, but when the ball is there, there's still that deep, mental like I want to be careful with it. Now let's see what happens. Hopefully you're not pushing. Oh, you are, yeah. Now it's better.
It's better.
Right?
It's still not committed.
No, it's not. So let's skip ahead like towards the end and see if you got a little bit more confident with it. So here's the last 4. This is looking better. Okay. So we got a little bit of positive bias now. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Like I believe this one more. Okay. Like the arms, we're gonna ignore everything else.
Okay.
And we're just focusing on the posture here. So we have more positive posture here.
Yeah.
Good. And we actually never got to neutral. You kind of erred on the side of like leaning forwards, which is for now is great. That's fantastic. Let's see if all of them were that way. About neutral here. Little bit of forward lean. Back to neutral. Good. Okay, so it looks like you kind of worked your way through it. But let's check all of these. Little bit of forward. Little bit of forward. Good. So on these, it looks like you're kind of forcing forward like all the way through, which in terms of like getting away from the old habit, I think is great. Like let's lean in the other end of the spectrum at first before we get really kind of picky about it. Let's go back to the blue line now, and we're gonna do the same thing. So you're gonna start to receive a little more pace now because you're further away. And so the timing of it might get a little bit trickier. And I'm actually gonna start to feed off my racket. All right, here we go. Neutral, positive, neutral. Great. So, I know not every ball is going where you want it to go. And there's all kinds of other
issues and
right,
timing.
Right. I'm going to really encourage you for the first like couple weeks, like minimum, when you go back home and you start going through the training.
Try to ignore that.
Let's one focus, just the posture. Okay. And I'm really confident that if you kind of let everything else go and you just focus on this, that through just repetition, everything else is going to start to fall into place with it. But if you go home and you train this and you're like, okay, like posture, and then 5 minutes later, you're like, oh man, I gotta like drop my hands like a little more, and then you start thinking about like your follow through, and you lose and then you start leaning back, you'll just be chasing your tail like forever. Here's your last shadow before I feed to you. So already some positive, nice, good positive on the hit. Returning back to neutral again. So here's your first 4 hits. Neutral here. Ooh. Little bit of positive. Okay. That gets the job done. It'd be nice to see a little bit more lean since these are easy feeds.
Okay.
Good. Little bit of positive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if I'm giving you like easy, like neutral, like I want to see a little bit more confidence in the posture at contact. If this was a live rally and I was hitting you like a medium pace, like competitive shot, I'd be happy with like a little bit of lean. But in your training, when you're starting off easy, just to like remind your body what to do, I'd like to see a little bit more. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because like if we can't get a little bit of lean on these, then in real life it's gonna be real hard. Okay. So if we go back to our example from earlier, it's just about the same feel as what Novak. So this is like an easy, neutral, you know, kind of rally type shot. So that's you're right in line in terms of your body position and your posture at contact.
Okay.
All right, let's go back to the baseline now. And I'm going to continue for now to feed you just kind of like a, you know, just an easy like neutral shot. And let's see if you can't maintain that same look and feel we just had on that last shot. All your focus on the posture. Don't let the other stuff bother you. How do you think you did posture-wise?
On the last 2 sets, I was really trying to like lean forward.
Yeah?
Like I was really trying.
So do you think you did more of it, or you think that you just got to where you were supposed to be? It's $1 million question. So let's see how you did. Yeah, good. So there's some timing stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I think through repetition, if you just stay relaxed and you continue with the lean, like, I think you're going to work that out. I don't think it's going to be like something that like sticks around. I think you're going to figure it out. Now it's a little bit, it's not apples to apples. Like it's a little bit, you know, different feed, but just for comparison sake, if we look at that shot, I mean, it's probably going to be pretty hilarious. Just the difference in like the look and feel, like which tennis player like really wants to hit the shot, you know? It's like this one is like, oh, don't hurt me, please, and this one is like doing something like to the ball, and it continues to be accentuated after the hit. Here, like you can tell, there's a lot of positive energy, whereas here, already with a negative bias, and then after the hit, continue the negative bias. So it's like, it's two completely opposite, you know, kind of forces.